Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular evening meeting of August the 24th. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel at youtube.com, District of Summerland. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. As council chamber remains closed to the public, applicants and members of the public are encouraged to register in advance of the meeting to make representations to council electronically. Please contact corporate officer at summerland.ca to be added to the speakers list for one or more of the following items: public comment opportunity item 7.0, development variance items 8.1, and public or media comment period item 13.0. Those who are listening to the live recording and have not registered in advance may call 250-404-4052 during the live meeting to be added to the speakers list. Corporate officer, do we have any late items?
There are none, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So could I ask for approval of the agenda? Someone on council, Councillor Holmes and Councillor Patton, all in favor? Thank you. And then adoption of the minutes from the August 10th evening council meeting. Councillor Holmes, Councillor Barco, all in favor? No, you have, there's a change in the minutes?
Yes, Madam Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
If I got the right date, a notice of motion was brought forward in that meeting about the invasive weeds.
Yeah, I think that was the last.
That was the last council meeting.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think we were talking that it wasn't a notice of motion.
Okay.
However,
Right. It was a delegation that, yes.
correct. And she is coming on the 14th of September.
That's
Thank you
right.
so very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So that's Ms. Scott then.
That's correct.
Good, good, thank you. Okay, on to the mayor's report. On behalf of council, our thoughts are with Okanagan Falls Director Ron Oberick, Mayor Vasilaki, and council, and the people of Heritage Hills and Penticton as they face the Christie Mountain wildfire. Our thanks to all those who are fighting the fire and keeping people safe. This includes the BC Wildfire Service, RDOS Emergency Operations Center, City of Penticton Fire Department, Emergency Support Services, including Summerlands, Interior Health, and others. Over the last week, I attended several Riga Arts Festival events, including opening the festival Saturday, August the 15th. Councillor Holmes was also there. Most of the events were adapted to an online presentation, but the signature event, the Primary Colors Concert, was held live at the Center Stage Theatre. As usual, it was very enjoyable and included both Sergei Riga and his son Shay, George Riga's son and grandson. Many artists, especially those in the so-called gig economy, have experienced significant challenges during the pandemic because live events are their primary revenue source. Having said that, they, like Summerland retail stores, eateries, wineries, professional services, and other businesses, have adapted the way they do business to ensure that people are safe. Councillor Holmes and I attended a short RDOS board meeting on Thursday, August the 20th, and he will provide an update on meeting decisions. Correct, Doug? Decision. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right, decisions. We are all aware that BC is experiencing a spike in COVID-19 cases and that the province and health authorities are preparing for a second wave of the virus. In Summerland, we have seen less illness from the virus, but we cannot be complacent, especially as we move into the traditional flu season. For the sake of those in our community who are health compromised, or those business owners who just cannot survive a second business closure, I and council are appealing to all Summerland residents to continue to do their part. Stay safe and continued health. CAO.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So we've got a couple of updates to council on some of the priorities that the council has set for us over the last couple of months and through the strategic planning process. So just a brief update. We've begun some conversations with a number of different groups in the community around the conversation against community conversation against racism in Summerland. So we're in the process of setting up a Zoom meeting with a number of different community leadership organizations, including the Arts Council, Chamber of Commerce, RCMP, the Alliance Church, South Okanagan Immigration Community Services, Philosophers Cafe, Holy Parish Church, United Church, Lutheran Church, Summerland Library, Youth Center, and School District 67. So looking forward to getting a number of organizations together, leadership organizations together in the community to begin that conversation. So we should be able to bring back an update for council at our next council meeting in September. So look forward to doing that. So really appreciate the organizations being able to get together and try and help us figure out how to best lead that conversation in the community over the next few months and into the future. The neighborhood downtown plan task force, council endorsed in March of 2020. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we weren't able to commence the process for identifying task force members. However, now we're in the position to begin notification for that task force. So the task force advertisements will be commencing tomorrow. We'll be looking for membership in the community from our downtown business owners, the residents of Summerland, the Chamber of Commerce, youth representatives, School District 67, supportive housing, social service providers, arts and culture, heritage representatives, parks and recreation representatives, seniors representatives, the development and real estate community, and I'm sure many other groups will come forward to assist us with that process. So really looking forward to moving forward with this initiative. I know council have been very keen to move forward with the downtown planning process over the last few years, and excited to get a keen group of local task force members together to help lead the process. So we look forward to getting a media release out on that first thing in the morning, Madam Mayor. And that's all for my updates. Thank you.
Any questions about CAO report? All right, we'll carry on then. First opportunity for public comment. Is there anyone on the speakers list?
There is no one on the speakers list this evening.
Okay, thank you. And then we'll move on to development items 8.1, development variance permit DVP 20-020 for 14404 Heron Road. CAO, or is it Alex? Alex? Thank you.
Let's just make sure this is working. All right, good evening, council. So the district has received an application for variance in order to allow for an existing secondary suite that has been constructed to remain within the existing, in order to allow for an existing secondary suite that has been constructed to remain within the single family dwelling at 14404 Heron Road. The applicant is requesting that the required number of secondary suite parking stalls is varied from 1 to 0. In the OCP, the future land use designation of the subject property is approved neighborhood plans, and it is zoned RSD1, residential medium lot. These land uses are consistent with the neighboring properties. The subject property is located in the Heron Road subdivision. It has a recently constructed single-family dwelling sited on it. The lot has an area of roughly 870 square meters and is located approximately 1.8 kilometers west of downtown Summerland. The requirement for variance for the parking space was identified at the time of final building inspection. Staff determined that the applicant had deviated from the originally approved plan in favor of a parallel driveway to the home that did not account for the required secondary suite parking stall. This site plan shows the approved driveway. As depicted, there are 2 stalls in the garage which satisfy the requirement for the single family home, and 1 stall just out and to the side of the garage which satisfies the secondary suite stall. Now, this site plan shows the existing driveway that was constructed. Only 2 of the required 3 vehicle parking spaces are accounted for here. Although the driveway can support an additional vehicle parking, this is not satisfactory to account for the required dedicated secondary suite parking. Allowing the driveway to count as a parking spot would lead to potential conflict between the owner and the suite tenant. Both site plans may seem similar, however, the original site plan was much preferred to the existing situation. Currently, the garage can hold 2 vehicles but cannot accommodate a vehicle in the driveway as it would block vehicles from exiting the garage. In contrast, the originally approved design supported the ability of vehicles to exit from the garage and driveway unobstructed by the secondary suite parking stall. The applicant has suggested that there will be adequate space within the municipal right-of-way along Heron Road to accommodate for the secondary suite parking. The applicant is not incorrect that there is adequate space for, that adequate space exists for parking. However, works in this right-of-way to make this possible were done without permit and unknown to the district. The purpose of the required parking spaces within the property boundaries is to ensure that the road right-of-ways are kept clear of vehicles that can crowd the roadway, create potential for danger, and become unsightly. The potential for overflow parking along Heron Road was avoidable in this scenario. The applicant knowingly chose to deviate from the approved building plans without compensating appropriately for the suite parking. As a result of the applicant's decision to deviate from the approved plans and undertake works within the municipal right-of-way without approval, staff have recommended denial of the proposed secondary suite parking variance and that the suite be decommissioned within 60 days. Thank you very much.
Do we have the applicant on the line? Are you expecting that he'll be joining us in person, like by telephone? No. Okay. We did receive a piece of correspondence, I remember. That's from the applicant? Okay. Okay. Questions of staff. Councillor Pat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Was the secondary suite applied for at the same time as the new dwelling unit?
Yes, so it was all constructed at the same time.
Thank you.
Councillor Holmes?
Thank you. When I look at the original driveway design and the existing driveway design, I don't understand the difference. I don't understand why one would be okay and the other couldn't. Aren't they both in front of the garage door?
I understand what you're saying. So yes, they do, like I said, they do look similar. Now, this is a photo, so this is the driveway in question closer to us. And then the second one in the back is the driveway of the house just adjacent. However, you can see the problem that's gonna happen here with there's not quite enough space because they stepped it back. The original driveway plan went all the way forward. Now, the driveway up at the top is just, like, if someone's backing out of that of the garage, they're not gonna have room to adequately move around a vehicle parked in that space, whereas the original driveway was straight down to the road, so they would be able to back out around a car that was somewhere in front of them.
Sir Van Alphen?
So, thank you. For the original plan, though, the original driveway, the slope from the garage door down the road would have been quite excessive, no?
Yeah, there's definitely issues with that, but they could have been resolved.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Yes, Councillor Pat.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When you take a look at the site photos, you can see where the driveway comes in, and there's some landscaping. The other photo, please, yeah. No, the other one. Well, I guess you first don't have it.
The first one, maybe?
Yeah, the very first one.
Okay.
So in our package, it shows the house, and then if there's some landscaping there, is it within our bylaw that can they have a dedicated parking in the side yard setback? Like, see where the door of the house is, so where that landscaping is, could they make a parking pad there?
I don't know right offhand. I can't answer that.
Okay.
I'd have to look into it.
Maybe it doesn't have to be.
I think it's 2.6 meters is the requirement for a parking stall with in our bylaws.
Great, thank you.
So you're referring to just left of the door there? The
Yes.
entrance, yeah.
Yes, create a one stall.
Yes.
One stall.
Councillor Barco?
The off-street parking that they're proposing, is that in the sort of the gravelly area right there? Or-
Yeah, right here. So they've flattened it all out there.
Oh, down there, well, that's not in front of their house though, right? That's 2 or 3 down.
So there's 2 spaces. I think the idea I got from the applicant was that the wider area, not right in front of the house, would be where they would park, but they may be proposed. And they've just stated that the parking would be in the right of way area. They didn't specify exactly where along it would be, but
Another question. In the motion, their proposed motion says before any environment action is commencing in any environment action. That's a phrase I'm not really familiar with. You mean enforcement or what?
That should be enforcement action, Your Worship.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
Oh,
Thank you, Councillor Barco.
That's how we spell it in Australia.
Enforcement action. Could you go back to that slide that we saw a minute ago?
this one.
No, back one more. So where the gravelly bit is, that is right of way as well?
Yes.
And so he can't park in there? Or his tenant?
No, yeah, technically no. They need the requirement is for a stall within the property. So it has to be on the
Oh, I
property
see.
and it's not on the property.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Councillor Trainer.
What kind of options would he have to accommodate a suite? Because we do need suites in Summerland. We need places for people to live. So does he have an option that could work in this case? Besides something that's legal?
I don't know. We with myself and the building department we've looked at a lot of options, especially once we realized what had happened in this situation, because all throughout when they were building it, at least this was what was informed to me prior to me being here, but basically it was winter and it was covered in snow, so they weren't able to see as clearly what had gone on. But once we did figure it out, we did try to sort out options with the applicant, but this is inevitably what it had come to. I think, yeah, there was I think he was looking at for spaces on the property to potentially site a stall, but we just weren't able to, so that's why he did go with the variance.
And sorry, did he give a reason for why he deviated from the original plan, which would have accommodated a third car?
No, so I wasn't provided a rationale. Not directly. I think in speaking with the building department, I believe it was a lot to do with the issues with grade change, and it just being easier of a driveway to build it this way.
But a driveway could have been accommodated.
For sure, absolutely.
Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, on that note, I think we should, rather than just say you have 60 days to decommission the secondary suite, the other option is that to give him to provide parking for that secondary suite. And it's really should be up to him which one he wants to do. So my question is, how feasible is it to realign the driveway to the original design, and how long would it be fair to give him to do that?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think this photo up on the screen, you can see the grade difference. So there's a fair amount of work that would have to happen to accommodate the driveway from, must be north to south. The driveway located up here. So you need to regrade this whole area down here to achieve the original design. So there's obviously a cost to that. So that could certainly be a discussion. If that's a direction from council, we could certainly have that discussion back with the property owner. I think there's a pretty good chance that they've looked at that option and they've brought forward the variance to try and waive the requirement for the secondary suite parking space. Again, the space out here, while it technically is not on the property, they can certainly park there. It's just not on the property that is intended to accommodate the secondary suite that the bylaw requires. So that's an issue right now with this application.
Another question for you, Alex, and it's similar to what the question that Councillor Holmes asked. If the vehicle that we can see in the picture, if there was space for that vehicle to park with a different orientation, so if what we're seeing, for example, is horizontal, if it was vertical, allowing room in the garage for another vehicle to get out, would that have sufficed? Or is it just too much different?
It was just too much different than from the original design. So I believe, so it's a shorter distance because on here you can see that the driveway is longer out towards the road because it doesn't turn. So there's just there just wouldn't be adequate room for them to navigate that. Properly, like if it was 3 cars in a family, probably a different story. But the fact that it's a suite owner and a tenant, we feel that the potential for conflict there is just quite significant.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to follow on from that, it's a challenge because we certainly want the suites. That's the intention of this area. One of the consideration stuff looked at is there ample parking in the street? Is a variance appropriate to offset the potential impact of having a suite? And as it stands right now, as you can see in the neighborhood from some of the photos, it's a fairly new neighborhood. There is on-street parking. They don't have to park in the boulevard. There's on-street parking. The issue is once you start to add more and more suites to these neighborhoods, then you start to see those parking issues on the street. So it may not be now. Should council wish to support this application, for example, but in the future, if there's additional properties that trigger a variance or create suites, don't have parking on site, that's when you see those issues exist. So we're obviously somewhat early in the development of this area. There are future development opportunities further to the west that may add additional traffic to this area. So there's a few options for council, again, based on the inability for them to provide parking space on site under the original configuration that was approved. They're the concerns that staff have brought forward.
Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If you go back to that picture, the other one with the drawing, what's that measurement from the house to the property line? Was that
6 meters.
6 meters, and what did we say we needed for parking?
So the parking stall standard is 2.6 meters wide, and I want to say it's 5 point something deep or in length. So yeah, you could like we don't consider a stall to be in like directly in front of the driveway, especially in this orientation though. So in the original driveway plan, you can see that it's offset just a little bit from where the garage where the residents of the home would be exiting the garage. So that it's a little bit easier to navigate. However, in the existing design, you have less room, and you have just less maneuverability because it's shorter. It's a shorter distance.
What about in here?
And there, I mean, if you like, it would have to be, but you gotta think like if there's a car parked there and the residents are in the garage.
Where that pink stone is to the left of the door.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be tight. It would be tight. Possible, but tight, and definitely not what we'd like to see. But
Well, I understand why, you know, the on-street parking in this neighborhood, in that location, you have another street verging onto this street. And then you have a car parked there, you know, somebody coming up the hill, you gotta pretty much, you're in the center of the road to get past it. And then you have cars possibly turning off that other street. Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I'd like to see this, you know, if possible, to keep the suite. If possible, do we table this and go back to the homeowner and say, come up with a plan? Yeah, you know, within 90 days, and if you can't come up with a plan that's gonna suffice, then I guess you lose the suite. I'm just throwing it on the table. I'm looking for some advice.
Anthony?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think it's certainly an option. I think all those discussions have been had. We're certainly, now that we're in front of council, the direction from council, if that's the wish, to try and see if there can be one additional space accommodated on site. We can certainly work with the property owner. I think on that, I guess the left-hand side of this photograph, you're going to be dealing with obviously some grade issues, potential retaining walls. Those are the sort of issues that would need to be figured out there. I'll leave on the bottom left, maybe electrical box there, but so some difficulties in trying to accommodate the parking space there. But if that's the direction of council, we'll work with the owner, and if they can do it, we'll work with them to make sure they can do it. If they can't, then we'll be back in front of council with the result of those discussions.
Councillor Holmes?
I'm just wondering if it'd be more effective if we passed a motion saying that we give the owners 60 days to come up, to provide solutions for parking for the secondary suite, and failing that, then that the owners can commission the suite. Something to that effect.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I concur with Councilor Holmes. I think we give them another opportunity now that it's come in front of council. But I think if we allow a variance for on-street parking, it's going to open up a door for us that we'll never be able to close again. And I agree, we need the secondary suites in Summerland. But on the other hand, too, being a strata, we know that the roads are not quite the same as constructed for the width as a standard roadway, so they are narrower. And I think that we would be opening ourselves up to a case where we would never be able to. We would have to look at every variance thing coming in for on-street parking, and I don't think that's fair to the municipality. Thank you.
Councillor Van Oppen?
One side strata, I believe this side is freehold. If I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
My son lives in the strata part, and there's people that utilize on-street parking, but there's also fines for snow removal. There's strata based for snow removal, so if you've got vehicles parked on the right of way, it could cost you. Here, this is freehold. You know, I agree with Councilor Holmes. I like the way it was phrased. Give it 60 days, come up with a different plan. There's options there. I mean, they're not all pretty. That fence could be moved forward towards the road, and that retaining wall could be placed, and that driveway could be widened, if I'm not mistaken, or is he at his max on the property line?
I think he's close to his property line there.
So, you know, hopefully there's some options that could happen here. But, you know, unfortunately, the original drawing showed it could happen. And he varied from those original drawings, so I guess the onus is back. It's here as a council, I agree, 60 days to come back with a plan. If not, we can stand to lose a suite.
Councillor Barco?
I agree, it's reasonable to give them an opportunity to do something with on-site parking. But if you give them 60 days to come up with a plan, he comes back and says, here's my plan. I think we want to before we give any approvals, we want to see that the plan has actually been executed, because he already had a plan that he didn't follow. And this is what is particularly galling about this application. And it's Pandora's box. You open it up, just give us a plan that says you're gonna conform and then build something different. It doesn't work for me. And so we need some other wording that is not just 60 days for a plan. And I look to staff to see how to handle that.
Mayor, I do have some wording that we were just looking at and seeing if it would meet council's direction. For the second recommendation, that the owners of 14404 Herring Road be given 60 days to provide a parking option for the secondary suite before the district commences any enforcement action to decommission the secondary suite.
I'm seeing nods. Councillor Holmes?
Does that work for staff?
Councillor Barclay?
So, okay, so carrying this through, if he comes up with a plan and says, okay, well, I'll rip up the rocks to the pink there and we'll pave it or something, and we'll make it a parking spot. And then, like I say, and then nothing happens, what do we do? Does that motion then say we will now, it doesn't really say, he's met the requirement, he had a plan. It doesn't say, so we don't do any enforcement action because he's got a plan. We got to change that a little bit.
Do you want to speak, Anthony? Or I know that Councillor Holmes has a thought. Would you like to just go ahead, Councillor Holmes?
Well, then, to that, I would say, well, then it doesn't get approval for the secondary suite until the parking isn't, he doesn't have the plan, but he actually has the parking for the secondary suite. There should be no approval of that secondary suite until that secondary suite has a parking spot. Simple as that. That's what I look at.
Second,
Councillor Van Alphen?
the secondary suite exists today. So it's, we're asking that he decommission the suite because he doesn't have adequate parking. I believe, he needs to come up with a plan that's appropriate with our planning department, our building department, and once it's approved by our building department, he's got 60 days to come up with a plan, and then once the plan is there, then he's gonna have to have X amount of time to initiate that plan. In the meantime, we're allowing the suite to stay, but come up with a plan and then execute when a timeline that's reasonable.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anthony, is there anything in the bylaw, if he was to do suite parking, say where the orangey reddish rock is, it wouldn't have to be concrete. He could have a gravel drive, could he not?
Yes, correct. That location, when you look at how easy is it going to be to provide a one additional on-site parking space? It's either adjust that driveway and the fence you can see there to widen it, to create quite a wide entryway to the garage to provide some additional space, or that area on the left-hand side of the screen. So they're the two scenarios. Cost-wise, in front of the garage with the retaining and those sort of things will be likely attached to that. Probably more cost prohibitive than looking at that orange area. So they're really the two options in front of the property owner to try and accommodate that parking space on site. And we also have occupancy of the building. The building department haven't issued occupancy for this property yet, given the non-compliance that we currently have in front of us, and a couple of other issues they're sorting out as well.
Would he require a variance then for that parking stall in that side yard? I noticed on the site plan it was 2.5 meters from the edge of the house to the property line, which is less than our 2.6 meters that would be required car width, depending. But I noticed also too that the stairs are a bit of an angle, so there might be some wiggle room there to get the 2.6 meters. But because you're using the side yard, would a variance then be required?
Yeah, we'll have to work with them to see where, is there enough room there in that side yard to not trigger another variance, because that's the last thing we want to do.
Yes.
But maybe it's in order to accommodate the parking space and the suite, maybe it's a more appropriate variance to consider than not providing a parking space on site. So they're the sort of things we have to discuss with you through that process. But I think Karen's got some updated wording that may be able to deal with this.
I think I might have changed it since we chatted. And that the owners of Herring Road be given 60 days to construct an improved on-site secondary suite parking option before the district commences any enforcement action to decommission the secondary suite.
Councillor Barco?
I'm just thinking that 60 days is a bit tight.
Yeah, me too.
Perhaps we give 120. Or 190, or some number bigger than 60. Well, let me put the question to staff, considering the difficulties in getting contractors and stuff, drawing up a plan, making a decision, what do you think that the reasonable number would be?
I think 90 days should be doable,
Okay.
but I think again 120 days has been, from what I understand, there's been a couple of sales lost because of the incomplete issues, I guess, with this property. So if the owners got the ability to, or there will be a incentive, I guess, for the owner to complete this as soon as possible, given the interest in purchasing the property that's been out there, I understand. So,
Motivated.
motivated.
Councillor Van Alphen?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On this site, how many parking stalls are required?
3.
3. Thank you.
Councillor Barco?
I'll make the motion as presented by staff with a 60 days as written by staff, 60 days.
60 days.
Now that I know that it's holding up the sale of the property, I think they'll deal with it quickly.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Patton? Okay, so for further discussion? Councillor Holmes?
Well, I kind of agree with you. Like the Councilor Barco, the first time you said give him 90 because 60 days to build all that. I guess they can come back and ask for an extension if we see it's well underway, but. Yeah, I'm fine.
That's before we start enforcement action, so there's a little wiggle there.
Anthony?
Yes, and I think if they're able to actually start construction on a parking space that complies with all the bylaws, they won't require a variance. They won't have to come back to council. So if they come up with a design in the next 20 days and then act on that quickly to construct it, subject to complying with all of our bylaws, then again they won't need to come back to the council. So.
Okay, any further discussion, comment?
Madam Mayor, just to confirm that the full recommendation does include the denial of the variance permit?
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's the understanding, right? Yes.
Thank you.
So I will call question then, on not quite what's written up there, but what we discussed. Councillor
Perhaps
Barco.
just to be sure, as we sometimes do, could we have the motion read back to us?
The second part, and that the owners? Because the first part, I think we just agreed is good.
It's denied.
Yes.
So that the development variance permit be denied and that the owners at 14404 Herring Road be given 60 days to construct an approved on-site secondary suite parking option before the district commences any enforcement action to decommission the secondary suite.
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, and then on to 8.2, the July 2020 Development Services Department monthly report, and that's yours, Anthony.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the end of July statistics show in the planning department, we've had 24 variance applications, 2 ALC applications, 11 development permits, 8 rezoning applications, and 3 subdivision applications this year, a little down on last year. The variances, as I said before, are up. We're in the process of bringing a number of zoning bylaw amendments forward to our Development Process Improvement Committee, and likely those will also be going through our Planning Commission as well for review before coming back to Council, potentially to the Agricultural Commission Committee as well, given we've got some agricultural amendments coming forward. So we'll be bringing those forward to Council, again, aiming to reduce the number of variances coming forward. With regards to the building permit activity, at the end of July, or for the month of July, we had 22 permits issued, $2.6 million in construction value. As of this year, for the entire year, 104 permits issued, just over $16 million in construction value, which is down approximately $11 million from this time last year, but somewhat aligns with the 2016-17 and 2018 permit values for this time of the year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay. Any questions on that report? Could I have someone bring that forward to receive for information? Councillor Patton? Councillor Van Alphen, all in favor? Thank you, that carries. Down to 9.1, agenda preparation process. And that's for you, right, Karen?
That's correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, Council. As an introduction to this report, I thought I would start by highlighting the policy framework within which Council provides direction for the staff to continue and to operate the District of Summerland, develop programs, and provide services to the residents of the district. So Council is a continuing body, which means that the policies that direct staff and inform the public are often put into place by previous councils. Local governments provide services that residents rely on. So this level of government, which is very close to each resident, provides continuity in the services and programs that residents rely on. When a new council sets strategic priorities, the policy framework is in essence reviewed and often adjusted, changed, or completely removed when and if council wishes to change policy direction. This policy framework, bylaws, council policy, and resolutions, is then the means through which council makes decisions, informs the community, sets service levels, fees and charges, directs financial commitments, and provides development rights, among many other things. Local governments are created by the province, and council acts within the authority that they are provided. This includes the tools that must be used to regulate, which is a bylaw, versus establishing a council policy, for instance, to set different service levels. The resolution is also considered a policy decision of council, even though it may be done on a single basis at every council meeting, setting some kind of direction for staff to follow. The very nature of local government is therefore open, transparent, and accessible to the public, and is a result of the statutory, regulatory, and procedural rules found in the enabling legislation. So when we come to the agenda preparation process, there are multiple considerations that are provincial and local. So under the community charter, along with the authorities given to council, there is a procedural obligation, including setting your annual meeting schedule so the public is provided notice of regular open meetings. Council must also establish a procedures bylaw that outlines how council will conduct their meetings and how items will appear on their agendas. It is therefore with both local and provincial legislation to follow that staff are able to prepare each meeting agenda. The process therefore starts with council direction and ends with an agenda that represents the business of the district. Decisions and or direction for council consideration are articulated in each report to council. Steps 2, 3, and 4 are equally informed by legislation, with report authors referring to applicable legislation and or council policy that may have been considered in making a specific recommendation. Reports are often circulated for input and feedback from various departments and are then submitted to the appropriate agenda based on the procedures bylaw. Corporate Services gathers the reports, so we're at number 3 right now, reviews recommendation, ensures the reports are placed on the appropriate agenda, and multiple other variations and considerations when reviewing reports that are context specific, including ensuring there's clear direction, we have the right authority, the right policy tool, and whether or not a report should be forwarded to a closed session. So the principles of openness, transparency, and accountability also apply and limit the ability to close a meeting to the public. There are appropriate procedures to be followed prior to the closure of a meeting, including a resolution that provides the public with information on what will be considered during the meeting. As the presumption of open meetings is first and foremost, in order to determine if an item is closed requires careful consideration, including the report writer demonstrating why it needs to be considered in a closed meeting. Often reports are not deemed to be a closed session item, and these discussions occur regularly. Part of the process includes a heads up to the corporate services group if there is a need for a closed meeting at a future or closed session at a future meeting of council. At this time, the discussion includes things like, does it meet the legislation? And second, is it necessary to be closed? Even though the legislation says we may close meetings, it doesn't necessarily mean that we must. There's only a few considerations where we must close a meeting to the public. So the recommendation might be looked at. Is it an open or closed decision that's being asked? Is it information? Is it something that is already out in the public realm? Are parts of the report considered open and parts that might be closed? So that's all the consideration that goes into determining whether something is closed. One of the considerations is also if a closed meeting is called a closed session, one of the reasons you can have a closed meeting is for council to decide whether or not they want or they believe that something should be closed. So a meeting can be closed, council can have that discussion, and then the decision can be made to either bring that report into the open or to leave it in closed. So when the draft agenda is pulled together, the CAO and the mayor, with the mayor, will review the agenda from the chair's perspective. So whether it's the mayor or an acting mayor, always sitting down with the agenda to ensure that we know if there's delegations, who's speaking, that type of thing. The reports are then finalized with the CAO, with his signature for inclusion in the agenda, and the full agenda package is published for the public. So there's really a circular process that continues. So council provides direction. Reports are in response to direction of council. The agenda is put together, and then council again makes decisions, receives information, or provides further direction. Now that's the report itself has more information in it. However, that concludes my comments this evening, and I'm certainly open to answer any questions that you may have with regards to this particular topic.
Councillor Holmes.
Yes, first, thanks for bringing this forward. I really appreciate it. In step 3, when it's deciding whether something should be closed, so the report author must demonstrate that it's a closed meeting item. Demonstrate to who? To the CAO, to the corporate officer. Who must they demonstrate that to? And also, can either the corporate officer, CAO, or the mayor decide that if the report author hasn't request that it be closed, could somebody else request that it be closed? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense. So it is the corporate officer that does the initial decision, and the discussion is always had between the report author and by all means, there's always discussions about ensuring that a report can be open. But as we know, there are certain things, legal, labor, land, that often are closed. And for labor, for instance, it's personal information about an identifiable individual, so that makes sense. So there are some that are a little more clear than others, but certainly the conversation would be with the CAO. The council, and including the mayor, is not usually involved in that process, so it is something that's done at the staff level. Noting that council can at any time question that particular decision on an agenda, either before or when the meeting goes into closed, and have that discussion.
More questions?
I have another.
Sure, go ahead.
So I'm not suggesting for a minute this could happen, but what if the published agenda is then different than what's reviewed with the mayor? Who is ultimately responsible for that?
Ultimately responsible for the agenda?
Yeah, if okay, so you sit down, you review the agenda with the mayor, and then what the council receives is different than what you had seen, right? What you had reviewed, and that we get that what's been published isn't what you had reviewed. So who is ultimately responsible for that?
So I can answer. So the agenda is actually from the CAO to council, council as a whole, so which includes the mayor and councillors. So it is the CAO's agenda. If anything changes after the review of the agenda, we would notify. If it's before it's published, we would probably notify the mayor that we provided an updated. Often there's notes being made about who's speaking. So if that changes, we'll often just as a courtesy advise that it's changed. But yeah, once it's published, we're very loath to make any changes once it's published, because often it's difficult for people, especially in an electronic format, who might look at it one day and then the next day it's different. So we very much try to, if anything is added to an agenda, we try to ensure that it's very clear that it's been added. And if there's any major change, we always make sure that that's brought to the public forum so that it's noted in the record that the agenda had possibly changed from when it was posted. Similar to this afternoon with the minutes. We can update the minutes online very quickly and easily. However, it's important that that change be noted publicly so that anyone who may have looked previously is aware that it was addressed.
If I could just add one thing to that too. When I review the agenda with the corporate officer and the CAO, it's just kind of bare bones. I often won't even have a resolution there. I don't see the staff reports or anything. It's just kind of the items that are brought forward. And I also don't have any say in, what goes on which agenda. That's a staff decision. Councilor Barlow.
I think it should be noted that ultimately it's council's responsibility for the agenda. At every meeting, we approve the agenda with or without any changes. If there's some significant change to the agenda, we have the power to say, maybe we should table that item. It's people haven't had enough time to review it, or we have the authority to say we think something should or shouldn't be in camera. Ultimately, the responsibility, with the advice of staff, of course, rests with council. And if there's something that any particular councillor isn't comfortable with, then they should bring it up, and it can be discussed and explained, and then a decision made. So the buck stops here.
Any other questions? Okay, okay, Councillor Holmes?
Well, just to yourself, Madam Mayor, and also, I guess, to the corporate officer and CIO, is that, are you fine with the process, the way it is now? And if there's anything you see that could be improved to ensure transparency, or is everything good? I guess that's basically all I want to know, and I think that's what people want to know.
Do you want me to speak first on that? It's kind of a you don't know what you don't know kind of question, but that has been the experience that I've had, with 3 different CAOs, since in the last 2 years. It hasn't varied from that. I think that it works well for the staff to be doing what they need to do and then deciding what goes on each agenda, because they are the ones that have the work plans and they know where they are in each of those various things. And I know I certainly have overheard you need to get your staff reports in so that we can put together a bare bones agenda to take and for review. So I think it works well. Personally, I have no desire to read the staff reports at any time before all of council has had the opportunity to do that. So when they're released on Wednesday, that's the first time that I would delve into any of the staff reports, and I don't really have any wish to do that. But someone else might look at it differently, and I'm certainly open to thoughts or suggestions you might have, Councillor Holmes. Works for me, I guess, is what I'm saying.
No, it's the RDOS is the same. You don't have all staff reports. It's just the bare bones. So it's the same process.
Councillor Van Elfen, and then we'll get the response from the other 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just for clarification, so you get your agenda, you have your staff report, we receive the report, then there's a presentation, there's a bunch of additional information that's not in the staff report. Is that captured? So like for public, like later on, like, okay, somebody in the public may read the staff report, and then all of a sudden there's further information that wasn't in the report. That is captured.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Councillor, and through you, Mayor, that's the important thing about the record of the meeting, certainly, and making sure that certain things are captured, and especially anything that's changed. Very often our minutes are, as you know, not verbatim, but they certainly should capture anything that has changed something, or that, for instance, this evening, the recommendation, noting in the minutes that the recommendation was changed from environment to enforcement, things like that, just to be clear for the public that something was changed. So the minutes are good for that. Of course, we're in the electronic age, so we do have video as well, which aids in the whole keeping of minutes. However, being that traditionalist, you have that written record moving forward 30 years down the line. You don't know where the video is, and you always have that record of council decisions and meetings.
Anthony?
Okay, I'll finish off. So I think the process we have right now works well. We've certainly over the last little while beefed up our reports in terms of making sure we reference the right legislation around what goes in closed, so we make sure that's on the council agenda. So and it also provides an opportunity for staff working with the corporate officer through as an education component as well. There's the range of different reports that staff bring forward can be pretty significant. So it's impossible for everyone to know every piece of legislation. That's why we have the corporate office. So working closely together as a team, I think we need to continue being vigilant to make sure we're on top of all the issues that come forward in the best interest of council and the community when we put an agenda together. So I've got every confidence that we have a team that has the ability to bring forward these agendas to council. The development items, and I was guilty of this in my past, we're always guilty of late development items on the agenda because of the pressure that the development industry have to get an item on the agenda. So we've got protocols and requirements around public notification, but there's always pressure to do things quickly and get it in front of council. So that's where we as staff have a role to make sure that the information in those reports is as accurate as possible, regardless of the pressure that's on to bring things forward quickly. So we've certainly got a competent team to make sure we have all the right information in front of council. And again, we have council here to keep us on our toes and make sure we have the right information so you can make the best decisions in the best interests of the community.
Any other questions? Okay, could I have somebody receive that for information? Please bring that forward. Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Van Elfen. Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. None opposed. Okay, so now we are on to notice of motion. Does any councillor have a notice of motion? Okay. I don't see any information items or correspondence, so we'll jump right into councillor reports, and we will begin with Councillor Holmes.
Thank you. I'll just give a short verbal report from RUS. So as you can imagine, as the mayor mentioned in her report, the Christie Mountain wildfire was kind of on the top of everybody's mind the past week. My understanding is the evacuation order is still in effect for 319 properties in Heritage Hills. And of course, as you know, there's loss of one house already. The RUS Emergency Operations Center is currently finalizing the re-entry plans for residents under that evacuation order. So the objective is to get them back to their homes as soon as possible. So geotech work is underway to ensure the safety of homes, the infrastructure, gas, power, water lines, that sort of thing, trees and those sort of things. RUS is also working with BC Parks to ensure Skaha Bluffs Provincial Park is safe to use as well. So, and there's an evacuation alert is also in place for another 116 properties in Upper Carmine and Skaha Bluffs. I understand today the city of Penticton lifted its evacuation alert for the cities, or the properties in the city limits. So that was the big thing on everybody's minds last week. The other thing you may have heard of was on Tuesday, August 11th, there was an attempted ransomware attack on the RUS's information systems. So all their systems, their email, internet, online services were all taken offline. Most of them are still down, as far as I understand. The IT staff are working with cybersecurity experts to review the entire network, and they're moving forward with some limited internal service right now. So full services won't resume until the cybersecurity team has completed its investigation and approved network use. And so that affected the production of last Thursday's board of directors agenda, and therefore, so they never were able to get an agenda put together. And so there was only one pressing item that came forward for us to discuss, although we did discuss the fire and the ransomware attack as well. But there was one item, and that was the board approved entering into an agreement with a court-appointed receiver to on the sale of an 80-acre parcel of land adjacent to the Campbell Mountain landfill for the purpose of building a sub-regional organics treatment and processing facility. The purchase price was $1.6 million. Approximately 2/3 of the land is within the ALR. And so the RDS will now be undertaking a public engagement process prior to the application to the ALC to have for an exclusion for that land to build the site. So if that goes through, then that'll mean that rather than one large organics facility for the whole region, there'll be 3. The one that we're currently putting in place is here in Summerland. Oliver earlier received the same grant we received for an organics facility in Oliver, and then the Camel Mountain one. So that's the way it looks. Organics looks like it's going to shape up in the region. And that's it.
Thank you. Councillor Van Alphen?
Nothing to report at this time, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barclay?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting, and 2 topics were discussed most of the meeting. One is TODA, and I forwarded the link to you all, and I had a quick look at it, and I thought, it's good, and they really emphasized how fortunate they feel to be part of that for a minimal price. I think he said $3,500, and we're there. And even if there is some errors, I didn't spot them, but maybe you did.
Just a few inaccuracies.
Okay. The other thing was as you might expect, that the chamber is talking about development and barriers for development and such, and everything that they seem to bring up largely seem to be really in the purview of our process development committee. And so all agreed at the end that yes, these are things for the process development committee. There was one area I think I helped clear up, is that they would have complaints about, well, why do we need, I'm making something up here, pave the road 10 feet wide when there's a big rock in the way and there's no traffic there, and it's just, why can't we make it 9? Doesn't make any difference in it. And I think that once I explained, staff really only have the authority to enforce the bylaws and the rules as they're written. And it's a terrible can of worms that they don't want to see opened if staff kind of just waives these things. If there's any variances, any deviations, for very good reasons, because there's a telephone pole in the way or something like that, then that has to be done at the council table so that it's a transparent and open discussion and everybody can see what, and who, and why. And we're the only ones that have the authority to make these kind of common sense deviations that they feel are necessary, but hold up whatever it is that they want to do in the business community sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing new to report this week,
Okay. Except the new truck.
except the new truck.
Yes, it's very nice. Councillor Trainer?
This morning I participated in a Zoom recreation committee meeting. It's the first one that we've had since December. And Lee and Associates was there to present to the members of the committee kind of an introductory to where we are at with public consultation for the new rec and health center. So it was just an opportunity for the members to ask questions. Obviously, we're just at the very, very beginning of this. And yeah, it was a good discussion, and they had questions kind of about the scope of the project, and Lori, as well as Lee and Associates, made it very clear that we're really starting from the very beginning with no not expectations, but no parameters. Yes, that we're just going out to the public and we're asking them what do they want, as opposed to bringing a plan to them and saying, do you like this? What do you think? So they were really happy to hear that the slate is clean and everything's allowed to go on the table. And then the second thing we discussed, Leslie is back. She's doing the further work with the fence off-leash dog park. So she came back to the committee to ask what they thought of her plan for public consultation. So the committee members gave their feedback on that, and she's going to start that, I believe, pretty soon in the next month, I think. She wants to get going on that before we start consultation on the rec center. So it's going to be very independent and very specific, and she's got a really good plan, and the members really like it. So it'll all be done online as opposed to having open houses, but hopefully we'll get it right this time. yeah, and it looks like she's got a good plan and they are happy with it, so that's coming up.
Thank you. Okay. Councillor Holmes.
May I just ask a question about committee meetings? If committee meetings on Zoom this afternoon, we talked about a lot about ensuring public participation attendance at our council meetings. Committee meetings are supposed to be open to the public. And so I'm just wondering, how do we ensure that if they're held on Zoom?
Stu, what's recorded, but that's a good point. I don't know whether the public can participate today or not.
Not necessarily, just, I don't know if they're allowed to participate in that community, but it's certainly open to the public. So how do we
If
ensure
you
that?
listen, that's for sure. Yeah. Good question.
Thoughts? Just one thought, just so council knows that the agendas are being published as usual in advance and posted to the notice board. So during the meeting, I will confirm if there is an option on the Zoom platform through committee meetings to have members of the public. Again, I'm not 100% sure if they've thought of that yet, but we'll certainly ask the question.
Thank you.
Councillor Barco?
That could go for councillors as well. I mean, there's committee meetings that I'd be kind of interested in, but if I could watch the committee meeting and listen to it from the comfort of my office at home, and even, I'm not part of that committee, but I'd like to see how the discussion went. That would be really quite convenient. And so if additional people who are muted could participate, that's just one more step up the role of transparency.
And the host can mute
Yeah.
as well, so that there aren't any accidental unmutes.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. Okay, good question. I am assuming that we have nobody on the line or in the speakers list. Okay. So I will ask for adjournment, please. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Patton, all in favor? Thank you.